An onain is pater min ha-mitzvahs. An onain, what is an onain? Onain is someone loses a loved one, and it's in between, it's after the death and before the burial. So min ha-Torah, there's certain halachas about karbanos, meiser sheni, that we don't have today. So practically speaking, the din d'oraisa, the biblical laws of aninas, don't really apply. There's what we call an onain, the colloquial onain. It's really mishameso mutalafanav. If you have like the third parak of brachas, we call it tilchas aninas. So it's a separate din. It's a din d'Rabbanan of pitor mitzvahs, that you're exempt from commandments, from other mitzvahs, because you'll be osek in the kfura. So there's this exemption, and onain is exempt from mitzvahs. So could he go to McDonald's and have the Big Mac? So of course not, because he's only pater from positive commandments. He's not exempt from negative commandments. The negative commandments, one he has to keep, and that's a separate, the further discussion among the achronim is because normally a mitzvahs aseh involves an action, and a los aseh is by not doing. If I don't do it, I have to. So it's usually shevi al taseh. So the issue is in terms of an iser aseh, whether in terms of how it applies to an onain, and we'll see it's a discussion, machlokes rishonim and achronim, and we'll get to it later. So there's a machlokes, Rashi and Tosfos, about what is the nature of the patur. Why is an onain pater min ha-mitzvahs? An onain is pater min ha-mitzvahs because of tirda, that he is thinking about the mace, he's focusing on the mace, and by doing a mitzvah that will take away from what he's supposed to be doing. Or some say a little different but similar, osek b'mitzvah pater min ha-mitzvah. You're involved in one mitzvah, so you're exempt from another mitzvah. So it's either tirda, osek b'mitzvah, that's why no one is exempt. Tos is close in the Yerushalmi that it's kavod ha-mace, that we have a principle of lo egel rush, not to make a mockery of the dead. The dead can't do mitzvahs, so it's not right to do mitzvahs in front of them. We put our tzitzis inside our shirts when we go to a cemetery, not to be mocking the dead. So it's kavod ha-mace, honor to the dead. You're focusing on the mace completely, so therefore you're exempt from mitzvahs. My nafka mina, what's the practical difference? Either way, I'm not going to do mitzvahs, whether it's because of the tirda, the osek school of thought, or is it because of kavod ha-mace. A major practical difference is, let's say I want to, let's say I can, I feel I can transcend the situation, and I could do another mitzvah. According to the first school of thought, Rashi and others, perhaps the Tshuvas HaRashba. So if you're up to it, then there's nothing wrong with it. If you could do it, or osek b'mitzvah patam, is only if you can't do both. If you could do both, then go ahead. According to the Balitosis, according to Yerushalmi, it's usher to do it. So how do we paskin? So we paskin like the Balitosis, like the Yerushalmi, it's usher to do mitzvahs. So even if you want to, you can't. The issue comes up is, as we said, and only is pater from mitzvahs aseh, b'chayiv in negative commandments, and perhaps iser aseh. So what about if an onain's hungry, he wants to eat bread, he doesn't have to fast, he has to make a abraca on the bread, but what about the issue of eating bread without washing your hands? It's an issa d'Rabbanan to eat bread without washing your hands, and it's a mitzvah d'Rabbanan to wash your hands before you eat bread. So what does he do? So the Piskei Tshuva quotes that he should eat bread without a abraca. He should wash his hands without a abraca, and then eat the bread. What kind of compromise is that? So the Achronim point out is because why out the Mitzvahs Aseh he's exempt, so he doesn't have to wash at all. The only reason he's washing his hands is to avoid the Isser, to avoid the prohibition, so you go ahead and you could wash hands without a bracha, because we only make a bracha when we get a Kiyam HaMitzvah. To avoid an Isser, we never make a bracha. We only make a bracha on the fulfillment of a Mitzvahs Aseh. And similarly, the Minchas Chinuch discusses as well a similar Chaila. Someone's an onin on Yontif. So obviously, the halach is on Shabbos there is no kfura, and Medina Gemara you could do kfura on Yom Rishon through Goyim and on Yontif Sheni even through Jews. But the Minig North America, based on Rav Moshe and others, that we don't do Lebayis even on Yontif Sheni because it's going to lead to more Chilul Yontif for people who aren't obligated in the mitzvah. There's certain communities, some Hasidic communities, I think it's Satmar, and I hear the Yekis, the Breuers community in Washington Heights. So it makes sense that it's more close-knit community, they could keep it more on the wraps, who goes. But the general minig is not to do it. So the case is, let's say you're an onin and someone dies on Chol Hamoed. So on Chol Hamoed you're an onin until you do the funeral, until you do the burial. So the question is, let's say you want to eat before the burial and it's Sukkah. So do I eat in the Sukkah or do I eat in the house? So the Minchas Chinuch has a chiddush, so not only is there a Mitzvahs Aseh to eat in the Sukkah, but there's an Isser Aseh to eat Chutz Sukkah. So the onin has a dilemma. What should he do? He's not allowed to violate Isurim, but he can't do mitzvahs. So out the mitzvah sitting in the sukkah is exempt. However, to avoid the Isser Aseh, he has to eat in the sukkah. So if you're eating in the sukkah to avoid an Isser, no bracha. So you sit in the sukkah without a bracha. So that's what he writes here, and that's the klal in general, like the Rush writes in Chulin, that there's a discussion. We all make a bracha mayim rishonim before we eat bread, and we don't make a bracha mayim achronim, but some discuss, there's a discussion on it. But what about mayim emsam, the middle waters? The middle waters is when you're in between the fish and the meat. So you have to wash your hands, and that's the custom of having schnapps saying l'chayim. I'm separating fish and meat, so I'm going to live, but fish and meat together is a danger. So everyone agrees there is no bracha mayim emsayim because the whole purpose of the water is just to avoid danger, to avoid having fish and meat together. So anytime you do a mitzvah or you do an act that's just done to avoid the prohibition and not for the kiyam mitzvah, so then one would not make one could do the bracha, one could do the mitzvah without the bracha. So that's the pshat by no name. So Machok is Rashi and Tosfos, whether he could volunteer, if they could rise above the occasion. We pass on like Tosfos, no. And the issue, and therefore you can't volunteer anything. And therefore the issue is, what about when you have a say mitzvah that has an aseh and a vos aseh? How do you work it out? So you work it out by doing it without a bracha, because you don't make a bracha because you're avoiding an isser. We'll have to discuss next time is, today we have the Chevra Kadisha, so maybe, so there's the whole exemption of Aninas to B'tor mitzvahs apply today, because there is no din, there's no Chevra Kadisha, so that's what we'll have to discuss.